Hi, and welcome again to the Passion to Profit Summit. I'm so excited that you are here, and I'm also very excited about Anne Hobbs to be here with me today. And we are talking all about writing and non-fiction writing and how you can improve your skills to really drive your coaching business forward, because it's such an important skill that we need to incorporate in our businesses. So welcome to the summit, Anne.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely to be here.
Awesome. But before we dive in, I just want to give the audience a bit of a background about who you are, so they also understand a little bit more about your background and your business that you currently run. So Anne was a coach and therapist for over 20 years and fell into publishing after she wrote her first book in 2015. Colleagues kept asking Anne for her expertise in how she wrote her book in 4 weeks and then self-published it, which is very impressive. And she then decided that she would run her publishing business full-time and put her coaching business to one side. Forward Thinking Publishing, which is the name of your company, was then set up to help self-development authors to get their stories into the world. Anne felt the whole writing and publishing process was scary and overwhelming, which I can only imagine. But you made your way through it, and you're now teaching other people how to pull through and sharing your knowledge. Anne has also set up a 3-step process to help writers write the right book for their business needs in order to upsell their coaching business. That is what Anne achieved and how she won a high-ticket client in 10 minutes with her book. Anne says, writing is simple when you know how. I would love to hear more about that. So you've also kind of gone, like many of us, we set out into one direction and then it evolved to something entirely different, but that seemed more aligned to who you are, your true self, and where your passions really lie. So can you tell us a bit more about that journey of, how from moving from coaching to publishing, what drove that? What was the idea behind that? How did you find your way through that?
I think kind of people kept ringing me, that was all. I fell out of love with coaching because it got too competitive. I remember sitting in a room with other coaches and no one would sit next to me because I was at the top of my game, and they're like, oh, we can't sit by you. And I just thought, I don't really want to be in this competitiveness. And I just had enough, I think, after all these years. So I was at like a crossroads in my life, really, and like, oh, what shall I do? And then I got all these people ringing me up and they went, oh, you've written a book, haven't you? Yeah, you've published, yeah. Can you help me? So I did a few for free, like you do. And then my friend said to me, well, I think you need to run a business. And I'm like, oh yeah, why not? So this has been the easiest business that I've ever done.
Well, it just seemed to really be meant for you, doesn't it? Yeah. Like all the stars aligned. But you've already basically run your own business for 20 years for the coaching and therapy. So probably you're already quite well equipped to quickly turn that around, because you've identified what you're good at, what your strengths are, what you're passionate about.
Yeah, and I think it's taught me kind of not to do everything all yourself. It's kind of like farm everything else, and that's what I want to do with this business. I'm not in it by myself. I've got a team of people around me, and I think that's important to really identify your mistakes and what you didn't like in the first business. So yeah, it's kind of been an involvement. And when I changed into publishing, people went, oh, but you were really good at coaching. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm still doing it in a publishing business. I'm still having to coach people through their confidence and through their fears, and I'm still having to do that. So I've just bought all my skills, but I'm now in a totally different vehicle, but I still kept all my core skills, but I'm just in the publishing business now rather than a coach.
Awesome. So you really kind of took all your strengths and built something quite unique that's really tailored to who you are and where your gifts lie. So combining all the experience that you've built up, plus what you're passionate about, plus what seems to be coming quite easily to you, which is kind of what everyone wants to identify, right? That's like the golden nugget.
It's taken years to achieve that, but I do remember a friend of mine you know, these what coach friends do. They go, if money was no object, what would you be doing? And I said to her, this was like, well, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago. And I said, I would be reading if I could read all books every day, I'd be happy. And this is what I'm ended up doing. I'm reading books every day.
Amazing. And that's what I so often say to my clients as well. Often when you think, you know, your hobby, I can't make money off that. But I've heard so many incredible stories, especially a lot of people on this summit as well, who've taken something that you would think, how can you make money off that? And they really turned it into a successful business. So it's always the things that you enjoy the most and the things that come most easily to you who are going to really guide the way to your business success.
Yeah, because people ask me, how did I get into publishing? And I literally fell into it. I didn't push it. I haven't pushed it at all. I've had people come into me because I've been known and liked and trusted already as a coach. So it's been easier to transition into like a business, but still with coaches, because I'm not in competition with anybody anymore. So it was a kind of a different proposition, and now people will talk to you, and it's really weird.
It's interesting what happens when you really step into your zone of genius, because that's really when you then start, like you said, it's not hard. And things just start coming to you rather than you trying to force it and making it happen. So when you really connect with that true, you know, inner gift that you have, things just fall more easily into place.
Yeah, but I think sometimes you don't evaluate it because it comes easy to me. I can see a book, I know how to transform it into kind of a better book. And my son really taught me this because he can play the piano really well. But what he can do, he can listen to a piece of music and within 30 minutes, he can play the piece. And he was sat at the piano and he was playing this piece that he'd learned. And I went, that's a real skill. And he went, oh no, Mum, everybody can do it. And I just thought about that. And I thought, yeah, we don't truly value our skills if they come natural, because to him, it's a natural ability. And I'm like, no one else, I can't do it. But I think that really taught me that sometimes if it comes too easy, we don't value it.
That is so true. For some reason, we have this limiting belief that something that, you know, is going to pay us a lot of money needs to be really hard. It needs to be hard work. It's, you know, this kind of struggle mentality is like, oh, you work hard, play hard. It's, you know, that. But that's not actually how we are meant to live. We are meant to live our natural gifts, our natural talents and strengths. But like you said, we often don't see it.
Yeah, sometimes when I feel like I'm not working at all because I'm reading books and I just love it, it just makes me think sometimes, thinking, oh God, I'm not really working hard. So it's a limitation, isn't it? Because you've been conditioned. You've got to spend 9 till 5 and you've got to really push it. And it's like, no.
I couldn't agree more. And it's such a great feeling when you kind of hours fly by and you're in the flow and you're really enjoying what you're doing. And then you realize, this is actually what I do for a living. This is like, is for real?
But then when people say to me, you don't seem to be working ever. And I'm like, yeah, because it's so fun. But that does bring that. Sometimes I feel a bit bad about that. Sometimes I'm like,
I remember when I was still in my corporate career, I used to hear this phrase, and I literally, every time I heard it and someone said it, I would want to punch them in the face, like, that's just not how that works. The phrase was, and I'm sure everyone's heard that, when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And now that I'm actually doing it, I was like, I'm eating my own words. I was like, oh, I guess they were true saying that. They were right saying that. But when you are not in that space, it's so hard to believe and so hard to see that could be possible.
Yeah, because with my coaching business, I was really good at it. I got a lot of transformations out of people, but I was struggling. It did feel like I was pushing all the time. And that's why I thought I wasn't going to run a business again, because I didn't want to push. I didn't want the push and the pulling and the hard. That it seemed really hard. And I said to my friend, I said, I'm just going to go back to work. I don't want to run a business anymore because I don't want that push. And so, but when all this kind of work was falling into my lap, I'm like, oh, okay, this is not pushing anymore. It's kind of attracting people to me. And so I don't know where people come from, basically. They just find me. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I spoke to a client last week, and she was saying, oh, can I have some recommendations? And I went, oh, yeah, I know somebody, AA Abbott. And she went, oh, my God, I used to work with her. So it's like, I don't know where she came from, but we had someone in common. So you just don't know.
Yeah, you never know. The world is so connected that you don't even realize most of the time. So you've had this awesome journey of, ease and flow and all came to you, but surely you probably also faced some challenges in really growing your business and starting something that was so new to you and something that is, quite different to what you were doing before. What were some of those challenges and how did you overcome them?
I think the most common one is imposter syndrome, isn't it? And like I said, if it came too easy, because I'm not a trained editor, I've done a degree in writing now, but I didn't have the qualifications. But I just found it so natural, and people say, oh, you can just see what I can't see. So I think, as I said before, I brought all my coaching skills and kind of how to read people, how to get the best out of them. I think that's what I do. I just changed my vehicle. So I think the challenge was that I wasn't that qualified. Like, I'd written 2 books. I'd known the publishing business, but I hadn't been in it for like 20 years. I didn't have that kind of experience. But what I did have was the people skills, and how to read them, how to get the best out of them. So I think the challenge was, like, why am I really doing this? I'm not qualified at all, really. But it's just your experiences, isn't it, that carries the weight as well.
I think that's so great that you're highlighting how you need to kind of use your unique skill set and your strength to overcome the challenges, rather than trying to fix things or overcome your weaknesses, but you really used what you knew you were doing well and use that for your advantage, rather than but I'm not known in this industry, I'm not trained to do this. But I was like, well, but I have this other skill that I'm really good at, and I can leverage that.
And that's why I thought I would build a team this time rather than just doing it on my own, because now I've got a designer, she does all my covers, and I've got people like proofreaders, so I can proofread a bit of work, but that's not where my skill set is. I'm more of the structural side. Get it good, get it flowing. Have you got a voice? That's what I'm really good at. And I'm not good at the punctuations and is the full stop in the right place, because I'm not into the detail. So I think it's just acknowledging I can't do it all. Like, I can, but I don't want to. That's not where my skills lie. So I think this is the first business that I've actually owned up to that, thinking, yeah, I can do it, but that's not where my strengths are. And that takes some doing, because in my coaching practice, I'm like, oh, I've got to be good at everything. And but this business, I'm like, no, that's not my bag, really. Leave it to someone else.
Absolutely. It's so important to start narrowing down what are the things that you're good at, and then really focusing on those things, because that's where you're going to make the biggest difference in the long run to your business and to the people you work with. That's something I really work a lot with my clients on. What is that uniqueness that you have, that you make the biggest contribution with, and how can we identify and how can we find ways to outsource or find different ways of doing things, so that you're not dragged down by your weaknesses or things that you just don't enjoy doing.
No, because they take a lot of energy. I know when I was coaching people and they lived in that zone, they were always stressed out. And you get them into, so I had a coaching client that she loves her to write, and if she didn't write and was back into corporate, it felt like she'd lost an arm. It's like she'd really gone down really quick. First day back at work and she's not writing because she's not in her zone. She got really stressed out. And I think but it takes a lot of confidence. And when my business, when I got really good in my coaching business, it was because I was turning people away. I'm like, they're not my client. This is my client. This is who I work with. But that takes confidence, doesn't it? To really say, you're not my client. Go and find someone else. And I think it takes a lot of kind of years as well. But if you get it done quickly, then you'll have a good business.
But that's why working with a coach, and I'm sure you've seen that so many times, really does make such a big difference to accelerate your process, because it's so much harder to identify that for yourself. And because you can't look into your own eyes, you can't see the wood for the trees. And it helps to have the objective person there to bounce with and to point things out for you and see things that you can't see yourself.
Yeah, and I had good information from a coach, a top-end coach I coached with about 6 years ago, and she said to me, well, you wouldn't do brain surgery on yourself, would you, if you were a brain surgeon? I'm like, exactly. I know. Because I was really beating myself up. Look, I'm a coach. I do this every day for a living. And some of my friends said, you ought to read this really good book written by Anne Hobbs. I'm like, what? But you do need someone objective, because you're just too much in it, aren't you?
I'm a coach, and I have a coach myself, because I know how powerful it is, and I know I couldn't do it myself, and I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have made it this far if it wasn't for working with this other person. Absolutely. So what do you think made the biggest difference in your success? So what was, the key, maybe strategies or people or system that you put in place that where you could really feel like that's made a big change? Could potentially be that, not focusing, or mostly focusing on the things you wanted to do and outsourcing the rest. Or is there anything else that you think really shaped your business and your success?
I think it's just concentrating on really giving like a fantastic service to the people you've already got, because now I've got it. Now I'm getting recommendations from them. They're coming back for their second book. So I really wanted to build up. You're just not going to write one book. You're going to write loads of books. So I need to give them a really good service in order for them to come back. And I think that's what I focused on in my coaching business, just to be really good. Don't worry about kind of building your list, like getting a system up. It's just focusing on those clients, giving them really good service, because they're your potential referrers. So I do concentrate on them, kind of the clients, and more than I've always done. So it's all about people again, isn't it? And really understanding and being approachable, and not feeling that, like, especially when people publish, they just go into fear, and then all of a sudden I get an email saying, oh, I'm not ready, oh, I haven't done my Facebook, oh, I'm like, don't care, I'm doing it anyway. So it's getting to know your clients, isn't it? And when you can push them and when they need to be empathized with and things like that. So I think I don't concentrate on too much of a system. I just really focus on providing a great service.
That's beautiful. I'm sure your clients massively appreciate that.
Hope so. Being known as kick ass your life coach, it's like sometimes I have to kick ass them, but
you do sometimes, you need to kind of, it's a carrot and the whip a little bit, and then you have to call them out on their own things that they can't, otherwise you're not going to see a transformation, you're not going to see them change their mind.
No, and you see the books that come in and the manuscripts I see, they're not bad. The writing is really great. It's in the structure that's not so great. But when you start forming that structure and then they have a voice, you can see how much more beautiful kind of the book is. So I try to harness that a bit more, but you can see the transformation through the manuscripts.
Awesome.
through the editing process, and then you get to the book and you think, wow, that started off, it was okay, but now it's great. So that's what I like to do.
That must be such a satisfying and beautiful thing to watch, to see that transformation.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes you have to be harder. I had one client and she was a parent, parenting a mentally ill teenagers. And I'm a parent of 3 boys, where I have no clue on how she parented these 2 boys. And when the book came to me, it's all about kind of her boys and things, and she had no voice in it. And then on like the 2nd or 3rd edit, she really got it. We really got who the reader was and why she was writing the book, and that just transformed into something so beautiful, something that parents kind of needed, you know. And that's what I love, is like writing books that people need.
And we all need amazing books to be out there and shared, so that we can all benefit from that incredible wealth of knowledge and experience and wisdom that's in them.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to write your first book, and how did you decide to self-publish rather than go with kind of an established publisher?
I wrote Kick-Ass Your Life in 4 weeks because I followed my 3-step process that I have. And that was really driven by one night, you know, when you wake up in a hot sweat and you think, I've got all this information that I've coached people for the last 10 years. And I was that person that I wrote about 10 years previous, and I didn't have the information, and it took me 10 years to work it out. And I thought to myself, if that one woman is struggling with what I had, and I've got the information that could help her, why wouldn't I write a book? And that drove me into writing it in 4 weeks. It's like, I need to get this information out. I need to help these people. And I think that's why that was so speedy in writing it in 4 weeks. But what I really wanted was, I wanted to be published by Hay House. So I had it on my vision board, and I was doing all the right stuff. And so I submitted it to Hay House, and they come back and they said, really great, blah, 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 but you haven't got 150,000 followers on Facebook, so we can't publish you. And so, being authentic as I am, some people said to me, get on Fiverr and get all these followers and then they'll publish it. And I'm like, that's not authentic. I want the book to really help people, not just have a status that I'm a Hay House author. So in the end, I wanted to control it, because my friend was published by Hay House and she had trouble with the cover, then they changed the name, and I thought, no, this is my baby. And this is what happens with self-published people. They want the control over it. They don't realise they're selling their copyright and they can't use it again. It's like, you just don't know. And I just wanted to help people and be authentic. So that's why I self-published in the end, because I wanted that control. And a lot of people say to me now, because I don't take any copy, that all my authors retain copyright, I don't take any sales of their books. And people are like, well, why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, because I don't want to work that way. They pay me for my service, that's it. I don't take anything. I don't take any royalties at all, because I don't think that's authentic. So that's why I self-published, because I wanted the control.
Awesome. And that probably gives a lot of people the courage or the confidence that they could potentially do it as well, rather having to think about, oh, how am I gonna get, into a publishing house like Hay House or like Penguin or any of those, because that seems like a big, massive, difficult venture to do as well. But if they've got other options and that's even more aligned to them, I think that will encourage a lot of people to go down that route themselves.
Yeah, I think it's in the control for me. I can control the cover, I can control the name, and also the copyright. If you're a coach and you get published by a publishing house, they buy your copyright. So you may not be able to use it in coaching ever again. and people don't know that. And I say to people, well, what are you going to do with your book? Excuse me. And they said, well, I want to turn it into a course online. Great. You won't be able to do that if you do a publishing house, because they've retained the copyright. So I think when you look into it, it is, I thought I wanted Hay House because I wanted that.
The name.
Yeah, that name. Oh, I've been published by Hay House. But actually, when you look into it, they take so much of the royalties that you don't end up with anything anyway.
So interesting. And I had no idea either.
Yeah, so, but I think people want to be published by a traditional publisher, but at the end of the day, they don't do much work anyway now. They won't market it you, and they won't market to you unless you're a Geely Cooper. So it's a really tricky publishing. It's a really tricky place to be. So if you can navigate it the way you want to do. So the first question I would ask anybody, what you want to do with the book, and then that's where your options will come from.
And especially in this industry, we use a lot of writing and a lot of messaging, whether that's written or on video, to also speak to our clients so they can relate to us and come to us for help. So how can you master your writing to really increase your business? I know you have that 3-step process. I think you've touched now on step 2, but what's the formula for really having really powerful writing that actually affect your business results as well?
Yeah, so when I first wrote Kick-Ass, I really wanted it just for the information of someone. But when it was published and I was sat in that room with probably 10 other coaches, and I got this high-paying client in 10 minutes, it's the fastest I've ever sold to anybody, because you have to warm them up, don't you? And you're spending months on talking to them. And this guy was like 10 minutes. He'd bought. And he said to me, you must know what you're talking about because you've written a book. And so I then began to realise the power that a book will bring to your business. So I was upselling from my book. They were paying £10. Sometimes it was free. I upsold from that. It saved me time with clients. So my 3-month program was now 8 or 9 weeks, because I'm like, go and read chapter 6, get the understanding and come back. And so there's so much more to making kind of your money from selling the book. So it's really powerful. And I didn't get that until I wrote a book, until I really realised what the power is. And that's why I love working with coaches. Not only that because I know the industry, but I know they're going to get the money back from the upsell. They're not necessarily going to get it back from the sales. Well, they could, but I like to think that the power is in the upsell of your coaching, and it gives you a voice, and people know and trust you. And that's why it has to be written in a certain way. Because people will kind of seed it, and that's not what you ought to be doing. It's about giving a good quality. So it has to be written in a way that will engage your readers.
And also tell them what you're about and how you can help them, and how you can help them transform their lives.
Yeah, and one of the biggest compliments I got from a client, I was coaching for about 7 or 8 years, basically. And I said to her, don't, when the book came out, she said, oh, can I have a copy? I'm like, oh no, you won't find it of any value, because I've been teaching this to you for like 7 years. And she went, oh no, I'll have it. So she bought the book, and then she came back and she said, it's great, because when I'm in trouble, I just open the book out and there you are on my shoulder and like talking to me. And I'm like, oh. And that was the greatest compliment I got. And she said, oh yeah, I could hear you throughout the book. And now I just read a chapter when I'm in fear or something, and I need a bit of confidence. She just opened that book. So it's really about your voice. And so I say to clients, if someone new kind of read your book and then they and meet you, you must be that same person. So if you don't write in perfect English, don't write in perfect English. I swear some of the time, so I put some swear words in because that's who I am. And people were saying, "Oh yeah, but it's not perfect English." I'm like, it doesn't have to be. It has to be your voice. That's it.
It goes back to being like super authentic, and I think that becomes in our world now becomes more and more important, and people see through it straight away if you're not aligned, if you're not congruent, if you're not really authentically you. They don't realize why they are not connecting to the person, but it's usually there's something not quite aligned in how they're showing up to who they are in real life.
Yeah, because it is scary, isn't it, being yourself? I've learned that over the years. Sometimes I can fall out of being authentic because I just want to fit in, or you just feel a bit scared. So it isn't as easy as people say, and that's why I wrote The Authentic You, because what I found was when I was going out into the world and networking a lot and things like that, I didn't. Not that I didn't like them, but I just didn't gel with people that weren't authentic. And I'm like, why aren't they being authentic? And probably they don't know why they're not being authentic. But it just came, it's kind of one of my values. So I wrote a book about it.
I think that's awesome.
It's really hard, isn't it, to be yourself sometimes.
And I remember times and in my old job in corporate where now when I look back at it, I recognize that I wasn't authentic to myself, and that's so draining, but you don't even realize it's happening, but it's really takes it out of you. But it's like, because you feel like you have to keep up this facade, and it doesn't get you where you want to go.
No,
sure.
And when I was back to coaching people, this is where I've learned a lot. When I was coaching corporate people, they would actually come in and they go, I'm here when I'm at work and I'm over here when I'm at home. And I'm like, what are you doing with these your hands? Don't they ever meet? And it was very separate. And then when you join them together, they become a whole different person. So I think people don't realise they're not being authentic. They're just, they have to be this at work and they have to be this at home. So it's really tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So bring it back to building a business. What would be your best advice that you would give someone who's only just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I think, as I said before, keep going. You're not going to nail it. You're not going to know who your ideal client is until you start doing it. I've known a lot of people that do a lot of courses and then they don't do anything with it because it's in the teaching, isn't it? And in the learning and in the speaking. It's just really getting out there and making those mistakes. Don't be afraid to fail, really, because you'll do it a lot until you find that sweet spot. It's sometimes it's hard, isn't it?
The more you do it, the more you refine that and you narrow it down to what it is that is your golden egg that you have inside of you.
But don't be scared to say, no, this isn't my bag. I know how to do it, but I just don't want to spend all day doing it. And that took me a long time to harness it. It took me a long time to really say, this is my client. Like in the publishing, I'm only doing a non-fiction. I'm only doing books that are going to help people. That's it. But it's quite hard to say that at the beginning, isn't it? Because you want to help everybody and you want to heal the world and things like that. So if you can niche pretty quickly and say, this is who I am, this is who I want to work with, I think you'll get somewhere a bit quicker.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such an awesome conversation, and I'm inspired to write a book now.
It's easy when you know how.
Absolutely. I'm definitely gonna start thinking about that. You've planted a seed. And you've also provided an awesome gift to our audience, and there'll be a link underneath this video where you can head there straight away and download it so you can really benefit from it. It's the 3 steps to master your writing workbook. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah, so people say they want to write a book and they never do because they go into procrastination. They say, why am I kind of writing this book? So if you do these 3 steps, this is the steps I took to write my book in 4 weeks. So step 1 is master your mind. Because if you don't master your mind, the mind will master you and you won't write anything. The second step is master your reader that I've really been speaking about. And master your structure. This is the number 1 problem I see in all manuscripts, is that the structure is rubbish, basically. The writing is pretty good. I don't do much with the writing. It's in that structure that's wrong. So if you master these 3 steps, then you'll have your writing, you'll overcome so many problems. You'll overcome, I don't know what to write, you'll overcome overwhelm. You'll have it all in front of you even when you start writing. And one of the issues is that I've spoken to many people, and then when they say that I run a publishing business, they go, "Oh, I've got something on my web, on my computer. It's 10,000 words," and then I got fed up. I'm like, yeah, because you didn't do the 3 steps. Yeah. So there's many people out there that have got manuscripts on their computers, but they've only got to 10,000 words. And that's where you're probably going to stop, because you haven't got the structure. You don't know who your reader is. And I had a manuscript from an American guy, and he wrote 90,000 words. And in the first 2 sentences, I could tell he didn't know who the reader was. So I went back to him, I said, "Who's your reader?" And he had 5 different readers. And I'm like, So follow these steps before you even start writing, because they're going to really help you with so many things.
Well, that's super useful information, and it will really, put us on the front foot when we do start writing our books. So thank you so much for sharing all your valuable advice and insights and wisdom around non-fiction writing and how we can utilize it for our own coaching businesses or whatever businesses we are in, because there's always an angle that you can take in terms of book. There's books written about everything pretty much. So thank you so much for taking the time and being here, and I'll see everyone in the next session.